Hi, friends. Today's episode is about sadness and gratitude. Two things that you might not see as going together, but I see them as twins. And I hope I'm able to explain this perspective in a way that makes you want to honor your sadness, makes you want to embrace it so that it can lead you to your gratitude. I really, really believe in that. So if you want to know how to use your sadness to increase your gratitude, keep listening. Thank you for returning to another episode of the Mighty Emotions podcast. And on today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about sadness and gratitude, right? Because I don't think a lot of people consider these things to be coupled, but to me, sadness and gratitude are like twins. Like sadness is the gateway to gratitude, like to real gratitude, right? So what is sadness? Sadness is, it manifests in so many different forms. When we're lonely, we feel sad, disappointed, hurt, grief. It manifests like all emotions. There's so many manifestations of it. At its core, though, sadness is not having what we want, right? When we don't have what we want, whether we didn't get it and we're disappointed, whether we lose someone we love and we want to have them with us and they're gone, not having what we want is the base of sadness. And this is completely normal and human because it's important to know what we want. It's important to know what we value and what has meaning for us, right? And we don't often pay attention to that. We don't often acknowledge the things that have meaning to us until we don't have them anymore. We tend to really take things for granted until they're gone, right? This is common knowledge. We all do this, and it's just part and parcel of juggling so many different experiences, right? So when sadness shows up, it's so important to honor that and honor that recognition that we don't have something that we want. And what is that thing that we want? And why is it so meaningful for us and meaningful to us, right? It's not about getting it. It's not about having it. It's about leaning into the fact that it's showing us something. It's showing us what we value in life, right? It's giving us that reminder. Is it painful? Of course, right? But that doesn't necessarily make it bad. So sadness is really like such a moment for us to slow down and recognize what we can be grateful for. Because when we find meaning in something, when we find importance in something, that is so much the foundation of gratitude, right? Gratitude is recognizing and fully surrendering to the gift of whatever it is that we have or had, right? Gratitude is fully surrendering to the fact that nothing is guaranteed, that everything is a gift, that we're not entitled to anything in this life, right? And it's so, so crucial. Like, we take things for granted because we think we're entitled to them. We think that it's a given, right? If we're healthy, we don't think about it, right? We might not place importance on taking care of ourselves and maintaining our health because we're healthy, right? We have what we want. But we have to remember, though, is that everything is a preference, right? Life is fragments of choices. It's not, entitlements. It's not guarantees. It's privileges, more so than rights. And you might be thinking, what are you talking about, Giselle? Because I am entitled to being treated a certain way, or I am entitled to having a certain life. I challenge you with that. I challenge you to think about that. Are you really entitled to it? Or is it the way you would like things to be? Is it a preference? Now, we're absolutely allowed to set boundaries, and we're absolutely allowed to define what our preferences are, right? That's the whole point. That's how we understand ourselves. That's how we orient ourselves in our lives, right? So it's not saying that because, we're not entitled to people treating us well, that we should just allow people to not treat us well. No. But it's about remembering that when people don't treat us the way that we think they should, that isn't a given, that they are in their own container, that they have their own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, emotions, that they are going to react in ways that suit them. And if they choose to react in a way, once you communicate to them what's acceptable or not acceptable to you, and if they choose to respect that, then that's something to be grateful for. Not to take for granted, not to take as a given, but to realize that they have chosen to respect and honor you. And they didn't have to. None of us have to, right? And so that's where sadness can show up, when we're not remembering that, when we're not remembering what's meaningful to us, when we've lost sight of that. And I'll explain this in this way, right? We don't always need to be sad. We don't all experience sadness in the same way. So for example, when I was giving birth to my daughter, I really wanted it to be a certain way. And of course, in true nature fashion, it was the complete opposite. It was exactly the birth that I didn't want. And did that make me sad? Absolutely. Right? That sadness was like, look at this. This is not what we want. And I had to go into that sadness. I had to honor it. I had to say, yes, this is not the preference. This is not what I wanted. And what do I have right now that I can be grateful for? I called my friends crying, and I called my grandmother and I prayed, and because fear was showing up for me as well, right? I didn't want it because of the fear, right? Of what I thought a certain type of birth would mean or lead to. And that's a really important thing. Like I said, when we don't get what we want, it's so important to listen to that information. Why don't we want it? What is it about it that we don't want? What is it about what we do want? Right? What are we looking for? What are we hoping for in the things that we do want? Right? And are there ways to get those things still? So despite the fact that my birth looked different, I knew that I wanted it to feel a certain way. And I knew that I could control that to a certain extent, that I could do certain things to make myself feel the way I wanted to feel, even though it looked different. Right? Had I resisted that sadness, I might have just been so obsessed and ruminating and trying to control the circumstance and trying to change everything. But surrendering to the sadness led me to have the birth that I was meant to have, right? And it showed me what was actually meaningful for me was how I felt about it, how calm I stayed, how present I was, how relaxed I was, right? I thought that in order to be relaxed and calm and present, it had to look a certain way. And it turns out it didn't, right? And sadness was able to remind me to be so grateful, to be so grateful that both me and my daughter are here healthy and whole, right? To be so grateful that my husband was able to be with me. To be so grateful for all the things around that birth that didn't need to exist, but did. That's the foundation of gratitude, is remembering that this thing doesn't need to be here, but it is. If you throw a party and you invite 21 people and one person shows up, are you going to be sad? Yes, honor that. You wanted a full party. You wanted to be surrounded by people you cared about. You wanted people to validate all the effort you put in to planning that party, and one person showed up. But honor that sadness and remember that that one person didn't have to show up either, and they did. That one person could still surround you with love and give you, the validation for all the work that you put in. And appreciate that. Appreciate that. Right? So I'm not saying that we need to get over our sadness as soon as we feel it. No, we need to process that. We need to sit with that. We need to look at that. But what I'm saying is that on the other side of sadness, on the other side of not having what we want, if we choose, is recognizing that what we do have didn't need to exist either. Is recognizing that there are things in life that are important to us and we can control how much of that we allow in our lives, and we can magnify that if we want, right? If what I'm missing is a community, then I have the ability to make that, to seek that out, to open myself up to receiving that, right? And I might not have it right now in this present moment, and that might make sadness show up for me. And I can honor that and remind myself when I go out into the world of what I'm looking for, of what is important to me. And when I get it, even if it looks different, I can remember that it didn't need to exist at all. I could remember that it's a gift. I could lean into that. I could appreciate that. I could honor that and sit in that gratitude, right? Sadness, this is why I say sadness and gratitude are like twins. Like they can come together, right? They kind of come as a pair if we pay attention. And this is the work of becoming emotionally resilient, of not resisting our sadness, of knowing that it also comes with so much gifts. It comes with so much awareness, right? If we're paying attention, we let that sadness in, and then we find out that gratitude is right behind it instead of slamming the door on it when it shows up and not being able to access that pure gratefulness. So I hope that something that I said makes sense. If it does, please email me at mightyemotions@gmail.com. Happy to take any questions. Check me out on Instagram at mighty_emotions. I would love to have you in my community of people that are really committed to being emotionally resilient, really committed to getting to know and understand all of their feelings so that we're connecting with ourselves this way. We're connecting with ourselves. We're connecting with those we love. We are connecting with life. And we don't need to shut down and run and hide from life because it comes with these emotions. We can invite them in, understand them, see that they're showing us exactly what we need to see. And they're truly gifts. And be grateful because we didn't need to have them. So I love you for listening again, and I'll see you in the next episode.